And I want to reassure you that if we remain united and resolute, then we will overcome it.
At 67, Angela Kelly, the Queen's closest confidant and personal dresser, finally ended her decades-long silence. Within the palace walls, she witnessed what no one else ever saw, moments that were intimate, unexpected, and deeply personal. What did Queen Elizabeth truly feel when the eyes of the world were upon her? How did she endure her solitude during the hardest times? Angela's revelations break past royal protocol, peeling back tradition to uncover the real woman behind the crown. Leave a comment with a 1 and stay tuned because this is the story the royal family never wanted told. Angela Kelly was not born into privilege, power, or royalty. She came from the opposite end of society. Born in Liverpool in 1957, Angela grew up in a council house. Her father worked as a crane operator, her mother as a nurse. Angela carried her distinct Scouse accent throughout her life, a constant reminder of her roots. Long before she became the custodian of the Queen's wardrobe or a designer, Angela first walked the halls of Buckingham Palace as a housekeeper. Her life changed in 1992 when she was working at the British Embassy in Berlin under Ambassador Sir Christopher Malib. That October, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip visited the embassy. Angela wasn't starstruck. Instead, she casually struck up a conversation with the Queen, mentioning she was planning to return to the UK. She had no idea that months later that simple exchange would spark something no one could have foreseen, a royal invitation. In early 1993, Angela was hired as one of the Queen's dressers. Before long, she stood out. Within 3 years, she was promoted to senior dresser, stepping into the place left vacant by Bobo MacDonald, the Queen's lifelong companion and dresser since childhood. Expectations were high, but Angela carved her own path. She didn't just arrange clothes or select fabrics. She listened, she learned, and over time, something extraordinary happened. She became close to the Queen. Very close. In a world defined by strict rules, Angela managed to bend them gently and subtly. The Queen trusted her so deeply that she eventually moved into the palace, becoming indispensable not just to the Queen's wardrobe, but to her daily life. Angela once said in an interview, "I love the Queen and everything about her. She allowed me to get close to her and she trusted me for a long time." This bond was no accident. Angela brought far more than style. She offered loyalty, humor, and an extraordinary eye for detail. The Queen, so often seen as formal and reserved, treasured Angela's dry wit and the unique charm of her Liverpudlian roots. They laughed together, shared quiet moments, and walked side by side. No grand gestures, no public displays, just trust. This was no ordinary employee-employer relationship. Angela became part of the Queen's inner world in a way that few ever had. When she was given the official title of personal advisor and manager to the Queen's jewels, insignia, and wardrobe, it wasn't just a title, it symbolized everything she had become. Angela's responsibilities went beyond clothing. She oversaw priceless royal jewelry, studied customs and traditions for state visits, and ensured that every outfit the Queen wore carried meaning. Every brooch, every hat, every trim was chosen with symbolism in mind. But trust like this is never granted lightly. It is earned quietly day after day. To understand how Angela reached this level of devotion, we must return to the beginning, before the titles and fittings, back to how she became the Queen's most trusted sartorial confidant. To the public, Queen Elizabeth appeared flawless, graceful in pastel coats, radiant under chandeliers, always standing out in vibrant hats at national events. But behind every ensemble was Angela Kelly. She didn't simply choose clothes. She crafted messages. Every hat, brooch, or dress was a silent form of communication. Her work wasn't about fashion trends, but about heritage, identity, and diplomacy, all woven into fabric. Angela wasn't asked to pull random outfits, she had to plan far in advance. If the Queen was scheduled to visit Kenya in November, Angela had already chosen fabrics and designs the spring before. Colors, cuts, and materials had to suit the culture, weather, occasion, and above all, the Queen's comfort, brought not by guesswork, but by precision. In her book, The Other Side of the Coin, Angela revealed that the Queen's bright wardrobe wasn't just a matter of preference. It was necessity. Bright yellows, bold purples, light blues, they made her visible in vast crowds. Whether to those watching from balconies, behind barriers, or on television across the globe, fashion wasn't the goal. Strategy was. Yet, dressing a queen wasn't only about the new. It was also about respecting the past. Angela explained that she often used fabrics from decades earlier, some dating back to 1961. Rolls of silk, lace, and brocade, carefully stored in the royal vault, were not forgotten but repurposed. Queen Elizabeth disliked waste and believed in value. If material was beautiful and durable, why not reuse it? Angela's task was to weave past and present together, transforming decades-old fabrics into modern, elegant garments fit for a 21st-century monarch, and she did so with quiet pride. Among the most touching of Angela's recollections was how she prepared the Queen's shoes. Long ceremonies and public appearances demanded comfort, but new leather shoes caused painful blisters. So Angela herself wore them first, slipping them on and walking through palace corridors until the leather softened. It wasn't part of her job description, nor did anyone ask her to do it. She simply knew it mattered. That was the essence of Angela Kelly's work, the small, unseen acts of loyalty that made her the Queen's most trusted confidant. Inside the palace, her workspace was neither chaotic nor glamorous. It was arranged like a high-end archive where every outfit was catalogued with handwritten notes, fabric samples, and photographs, all carefully stored with labels to ensure the Queen would never appear at a major event in the same ensemble twice. Reuse, however, was never taboo. Angela often breathed new life into familiar garments, perhaps by replacing buttons or altering a trim. The Queen's wardrobe was not worn once and discarded. It evolved steadily, much like her reign itself. Angela once explained how she organized accessories, laying out options for brooches and hats while offering suggestions rather than commands. Every choice was made through collaboration and trust. She was not merely a designer, but the Queen's closest advisor on public image. Though the world praised Elizabeth II's timeless style, few realized the dedication, research, and sleepless nights that went into creating each look. Angela ensured nothing was left to chance. From the shade of a pair of gloves to the symbolic weight of a brooch, her role extended far beyond the routine. She was there for the truly iconic occasions, moments the world would never forget. One of the most extraordinary was bold and unexpected, a moment that stunned millions when it unfolded live on screen. Angela Kelly was not simply the woman behind the wardrobe. She was the silent architect of history. And one of those moments had nothing to do with pearls or brooches, but with paragliding, James Bond, and a stadium filled with astonished faces. The entire world watched the opening ceremony of the 2012 London Olympics. Billions of eyes anticipated a showcase of British grandeur, perhaps witty theatrics, Paul McCartney's performance, or a nod to Shakespeare. No one, absolutely no one, expected Queen Elizabeth II herself to appear in a film sequence calmly greeting James Bond at Buckingham Palace. The scene began like any Bond thriller, with Daniel Craig striding through the gilded corridors before the camera cut to the Queen at her desk. She turned, unflappable, and said, "Good evening, Mr. Bond." In that instant, here, the monarch became a movie star. The film then grew even bolder. Bond and the Queen were seen boarding a helicopter, flying across London and parachuting into the Olympic Stadium with a stunt double for the airborne leap. Moments later, when the Queen appeared live in the royal box, the crowd erupted. It was not simply humorous, it was historic. The performance revealed a playful, modern side of the Queen, and behind that unforgettable moment was a trusted figure, Angela Kelly. Angela knew the Queen's mischievous streak well. She had witnessed flashes of humor in private, glimpses rarely seen beyond palace walls. When director Danny Boyle and his team suggested the Olympic stunt, most assumed that Queen would politely decline. Angela thought otherwise. She encouraged the idea, recognizing it not as inappropriate, but as an opportunity, a surprising way for the Queen to connect with a younger generation. Her subtle encouragement allowed Elizabeth to break free from tradition without ever compromising. Dignity. Angela believed the Queen could do it, and she did. It was not the only time Angela saw the Queen's humor shine. One of her most memorable behind-the-scenes stories was an April Fool's prank. Angela placed a lifelike stuffed cuckoo, a bird native to Australia, outside the Queen's window and told her that a rare wild bird had landed there, summoned by the Commonwealth itself. The Queen examined the toy with solemn curiosity before dryly remarking, "You're joking." Then she laughed heartily. That moment revealed everything. Angela was not merely an employee, but someone welcomed into the Queen's private world of jokes, trust, and loyalty. Few dared tease the monarch. Angela could and did. In a palace bound by rules, Angela offered comfort. She did not only dress the Queen, she humanized her, especially in high-pressure moments when every lens in the world was fixed upon her. Angela stood just beyond the cameras, making sure earrings matched the gown, shoes were softened for comfort, and hats were perfectly placed. She often eased tension with a well-timed joke before Elizabeth stepped into the blaze of flashbulbs. The public saw elegance, but not the quiet friend smoothing a coat, whispering reassurance, and stepping back into the shadows. Angela's work preserved more than style. She safeguarded the Queen's mood, memories, and the magic of royal tradition, one moment at a time. The Olympic stunt may have been her most spectacular contribution, but it was not her only brush with history. She also revived royal heritage in ways no fashion magazine ever noted, even through something as humble as a tea bag. In fashion, recreating a dress can seem routine. But when that dress has been worn by royals since Queen Victoria's era, it becomes sacred work preserving family history. In 2004, Elizabeth II quietly asked Angela to restore the royal christening gown. The gown, created in 1841 for Victoria's eldest daughter, had been worn by over 60 royal babies, including the Queen's children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. By then, however, the Spitalfield silk and Honiton lace were too fragile to touch, let alone wear. The Queen knew what needed to be done. But she wasn't interested in just another replica. She wanted a gown that carried the spirit of the original, a dress that honored tradition without becoming a lifeless modern copy. For such a delicate task, she turned to Angela. This was never about simply stitching fabric together. It was about weaving emotion, memory, and heritage into every thread and piece of lace. Angela immediately grasped the weight of the responsibility. Having worked closely with the Queen for years, she understood how personal this gown was. It wasn't just clothing. It was a royal time capsule. She and her team began their work with precision, studying every detail of the original gown. The lace had to be exact. The silk had to feel right, and every stitch, fold, and even the weight of the fabric had to match. After long research, they sourced lace from Italy, renowned for its exquisite textiles. But there was a challenge. The lace looked far too new. It lacked the aged golden softness of the original, leaving the new gown at risk of resembling a costume rather than a piece of living. Heritage Angela, however, didn't panic. She leaned into her creativity, turning to a surprisingly ordinary household item, Yorkshire tea. She found a solution. By soaking the lace in brewed tea, she gave it a pale golden hue, soft enough to resemble the original while still fresh enough to feel new. It was a clever choice, blending tradition with ingenuity, a perfect reflection of Angela herself. When the gown was finally ready, it was stunning. It's the first royal baby to wear it was James by Count Sever, the Queen's youngest grandson, at his christening in 2008. The moment was quiet yet deeply symbolic, marking the beginning of a new chapter where the royal family could honor its past while embracing the future. Since then, the gown has been worn by many royal children. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, Prince Louis, and even Archie Harrison, the son of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Each time, as the lace and silk appeared before the public, it carried with it nearly 2 centuries of tradition preserved thanks to Angela's steady hands. But her service to the Queen went far beyond gowns and ceremonies. When the world changed in 2020 with the arrival of CO-19, life within palace walls also transformed. Windsor Castle fell silent. Public events vanished. Tours were cancelled, and the usual grandeur of royal life was stripped away. What remained was something far simpler, a Queen living in near-complete seclusion. And through it all, there was Angela Kelly. Angela, once responsible for preparing the Queen for glittering banquets and state occasions, suddenly became something more intimate. She was part of what the palace called HMS Bubble, a group of about 20 trusted staff who isolated alongside Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip. The name might sound playful, but the reality was far from easy. They could not leave, could not see family, and gave up months of their personal lives to protect the Queen. Angela was among them, sacrificing more than weekends or holidays. She gave up nearly everything to ensure the safety of the woman she had served and admired for decades. Inside the bubble, Angela's role expanded beyond her official title. She became housekeeper, companion, and even hair stylist when needed. With no extra staff on hand, she carefully styled the Queen's hair herself before video calls and official photographs. Shaping her curls with the same precision she had always used, but now without her usual team. Meals were simpler, days quieter. The palace halls, once alive with bustling servants and polished shoes, echoed with silence. Yet within that stillness, Angela and the Queen forged an even deeper bond. They shared afternoon teas, sometimes in quiet reflection, sometimes in laughter. And when the Queen lost her beloved husband of more than 70 years, Prince Philip, in April 2021, Angela was by her side. She became a quiet pillar of support, helping the Queen navigate grief while the world looked on from afar. No cameras captured those moments, but their emotional weight lingered in every step the Queen took. When she prepared for Philip's funeral, sitting alone, masked and socially distanced, it was Angela who helped her behind the scenes. When the bubble finally dissolved and the world slowly reopened, Angela made a decision that no royal aide had ever dared to make. She wrote about it. Not rumors or scandals, but her truth, her years alongside Queen Elizabeth, told through her own eyes. The memoir, The Other Side of the Coin, revealed quiet moments and private rituals the public had never seen. For the first time, people learned what it was truly like to prepare the Queen's attire for a banquet, to share laughter over breakfast, or to sit in silence with her during lockdown. Angela had stepped into the Queen's world, stayed there for over 2 decades. But her memoir shocked royal watchers, not because it betrayed secrets, because it offered something even rarer: honesty, intimacy, and the human side of life behind palace doors. At 67, Angela did more than break the silence. She opened the palace doors and invited the world to peer inside. It all began with a blessing, a royal blessing. Queen Elizabeth II, a monarch known for guarding silence, privacy, and tradition above all else, granted Angela something no member of staff had ever received before. Permission to write about their personal relationship. Not after retirement, not after the Queen's passing, but while she was still alive. This wasn't a casual nod of approval. It was a historic gesture. The Queen, who had spent her life keeping everything under wraps, essentially told Angela, "You can tell them about me." The result was a book that rippled across the globe. The Other Side of the Coin, the Queen, the Dresser, and the Wardrobe. Unlike anything the royal household had seen before, Angela's memoir was not scandal nor tabloid gossip. Instead, it was rare, genuine, warm, and deeply intimate. It revealed a version of Elizabeth the cameras and portraits had never captured, not the monarch, not the symbol, but the woman behind it all. The one who laughed at inside jokes, insisted on doing things a certain way, sometimes made unexpected decisions that left everyone scrambling. Angela wasn't an outsider or a ghost rider. She was the one who zipped the Queen's dresses, steamed her coats, and angled every hat just so. She knew precisely how the Queen liked her silk scarves folded, which colors to avoid, and which brooch carried a special meaning on particular days. She even helped break in the Queen's new shoes by walking them around the palace halls. More importantly, Angela understood Elizabeth's moods, her rhythm, and the quiet moments when she simply needed someone to sit with her in silence. For decades, Angela was the silent figure on the edges of royal photographs with the Queen's blessing. She stepped into the frame to reveal what those private moments really looked like. But the task was not easy. The royal family is famously tight-lipped. For generations, staff had lived under unspoken rules. Do not speak. Do not reveal. Do not cross boundaries. Breaking that silence, even with permission, felt like walking a line no one had dared approach. Angela knew the risks. She knew some within the palace would be displeased. But her loyalty was not to tradition, was to the Queen herself, and the Queen had made her wishes clear. It's time they see this side of me. The book went far beyond dresses and state visits. revealed Elizabeth laughing over wardrobe mishaps or choosing jewelry not by protocol but for sentimental value. Angela's stories placed readers inside the room watching a real woman prepare for another day as monarch. The public adored it. The memoir became a bestseller celebrated for its honesty and warmth. Yet not everyone was pleased. High-ranking courtiers whispered disapproval. Some said Angela had grown too familiar, others that she had been granted too much access. A few even hinted she had strayed dangerously close to fame. But Angela wasn't chasing fame, she told the truth with respect, caution, and with the Queen's own approval. And perhaps that's why the book was both powerful and controversial. For Angela, it was not the end, but the beginning, cause there was one thing left unsaid, one private detail the Queen had never made public until then. For decades, the world had known Elizabeth II through portraits and photographs that reinforced her as the embodiment of tradition and grey stiff collars. Flawless hats, impeccable posture, always the monarch, never just Elizabeth. To millions, she was untouchable, wrapped in protocol and ceremony. Yet beneath that dignified exterior was another woman. A woman who longed to be seen not only as a monarch, but as herself. This private side of Elizabeth remained hidden from public view, seen only by Angela, her trusted dresser and confidant. In the other side of the coin, Angela revealed one of the Queen's most surprising wishes to be photographed informally, showing a relaxed and authentic version of herself. For the royal family, this was radical. For generations, every image had been carefully staged to uphold tradition. There was no room for spontaneity. Yet, the Queen yearned for something genuine, something that connected her with the public beyond the pomp. Angela understood, and with quiet consent, she arranged a private photo session. No flashing cameras, no bustling staff, just the Queen unguarded. One striking photograph captured her standing casually, hands tucked in her pockets. Small gesture, but one that spoke volumes. Here was a monarch embracing change, revealing a side of herself freed from decades of rigid expectation. That image was more than a portrait, was a quiet rebellion against the severe role she had carried all her life. Angela's book carried many such moments. Beyond the photos, it highlighted Elizabeth's practicality, like her respect for the royal archives filled with decades of fabrics. Rather than always demanding something new, she often chose to reuse or recycle these materials. Thrifty instinct that revealed her balance of tradition and common sense. The memoir also shared her humor, like her cheerful acceptance of April Fool's Day pranks. Glimpses of warmth that softened the public's image of her. Readers embraced this new picture of Elizabeth. Okay. Angela's respectful storytelling humanized the Queen, transforming her from a distant monarch into a relatable woman with emotions, quirks, and laughter. The other side of the coin opened a new window into her life, a life of grace, quiet strength, and authenticity few had imagined. And so the question lingers after hearing the Queen's secret wish and Angela Kelly's bold decision to share it. Has it changed the way you see Elizabeth? Let us know your thoughts. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe.